Welcome back to the No Mulligans podcast here in the new Learning Center at Franklin Bridge. Wow, it feels good to say that, man.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It's like our second episode in here now after Christmas break. Yep. And we're just kind of getting rolling here, getting into the season that's coming up. And, I mean, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, it feels kind of like it feels weird. Like we got spots. We're still not done getting things set up in here yet. And our grand opening is still tentative. And it's a lot of still tentative things. But we're moving. We're moving in the right direction.
We are moving. I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the last episode that may have gone out before this. It might come out after this, but we have two camera angles here, so you can see the big impact screen that we have behind us, and then on the alternate angle, you can see here all of our screens. And we were working on some stuff with my swing. We might talk about here in this episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess before we get started, if you guys are listening here on audio, thanks for being here. But we're also on YouTube now too. So if you want to go over onto YouTube and type in No Mulligans Podcast, you'll get to see the visual and the audio.
Yep.
You get to see it all in one, get to see the new Learning Center. And then, if you guys want to become a student here at Franklin Bridge, or if you are a student, you can get to see the new digs where you'll get to practice.
Yes, let's go. I already feel better about this. This is great, man.
I love it.
This is good.
This is great. Well, I guess let's dive right in, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like that we finally have we have props now.
I know.
We haven't had props in so long. Like, we had the putting studio, but we didn't have,
It's nice to have the caddy bags. The caddy bags, like both of our bags here. It's, I said we were going to jump into it, but just doing our little lesson here, and we'll get into a little bit more about these practical tips and doing the small things right. But it just feels good to be in a place where you fully know what you have to do to get better.
Yeah. Oh, you can't do it wrong in here without knowing, which you got to experience firsthand when we put that player's triangle up there.
Right.
Which is new. I've done it in parts, but to put the whole thing together was really kind of fun.
For sure.
So,
but this episode is going to be focused on people who are listening here. If you listen to this episode all the way through, you will get better. It's not an if, it's a when.
Right.
So, I mean, you kind of had some of these topics written down. I guess we'll go ahead and jump right into them. As far as practical tips, I feel like there's a lot of tips that you see on TikTok or on YouTube, and you said it brilliantly when we were over here doing my swing session, but you were like something along the lines of, you used to teach a golf swing to the masses, but now it's so refined where we're doing all these tiny adjustments and giving them as tips to everybody. When in reality, it's probably not the way to approach it.
Yeah, and you're in a world right now of almost ubiquitous, infinite, unrelenting information. And I think in a world of mass information, what you don't need is more information. You need refinement of said information. And that's what we provide, right? And that's not just for the golf business. I mean, that's for any business. Like, it's why you have a financial coach, you have a leadership coach, you have a personal trainer, a physical therapist, a pastor at your church, like whatever the thing is. You have somebody to guide you through it. So, love-hate relationship with all this tech, man. Like, it is so much. And so our job is to really narrow that down and make it practical. And to your point about the masses, we're going to do something here soon. We haven't decided whether we're going to make it available for a very nominal fee, like $10 to the masses that are our students, or just make it where it's just internal teaching the team. But Zach asked, hey, can you take us through the eras of golf instruction? Because he hears me talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if you understand the lens through which you're viewing things, you're able to practically make sense of what's in front of you. And the majority of the things and the tips that you're reading and hearing about are all being governed by one big thing: hit it farther. Using the ground, what's that about? Hitting it farther. Using TrackMan, hit it farther. Speed Sticks, hit it farther. Golf Forever program, hit it farther. so much of it's about hit it farther, hit it farther, hit it farther. 10 more yards on the tour is $1 million. Hit it farther. Golf courses are too long. Hit it farther. Walk the golf ball back. Hit it farther, right? Like that is the message. Buy the new driver. Hit it farther. It's our longest driver, best driver yet. Like the whole of everything that you're hearing is hit it farther. But that's not how the game was originally taught. It was taught to the masses. And so there's some practical tips. I've already forgotten what's on my list of things that I've given. But there's, what can we practically do? This makes me think back to our Breaking 80, Breaking 90 podcast. Right.
It does. And like, I do want to touch really quick when you said like hit it farther, hit it further, hit it further. And then back in the old days, it was teaching the game to the masses with more emphasis on, I'll just say with air quotes, fundamentals, if you will.
Right.
Where I love about that era is that you didn't have the technology to be able to say further is better.
Right.
And so you were limited by what you had, the hickory sticks in your hands.
Right.
And so you really have to teach, and to be fair, those are hard to hit too.
Right.
So you have to really be teaching the right things correctly.
And we need to get some of those and actually try to hit them.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Let's just hope they don't break, go through our screen and blow a hole in the screen. So we might have to do it with the doors open. But I don't even remember what's on my list.
Well, let's dive into it. I mean,
what was my first one?
Well, we talked about this a little bit last week. We have just so much information at our fingertips right here where we need to be focused on the right things or one thing or two things that we're working on. We don't need to have all this information here and be cluttered by everything that it spits out.
Right. I think that's the, you need to have feedback on every single swing. One of the things, like if you can see the shot that's behind us, it's a 180-yard 7-iron that Jack hit beforehand. And so you can hit that shot right there so many different ways. Like there's so many different ways to get the club into those positions, and you might have gone like, I hit that one so good, but if we flip the cameras on, this is the trap, right? Like you need feedback on your golf swings, and whether that means you can afford, $5 for some sort of training tool or some fancy, this stuff at your house, which most people don't. We don't think most people should. Come pay us $45 for a session or $100 a month and actually use this system, because to get cameras plus all this is it's cost prohibitive for the masses.
But I think that's where a lot of people get in trouble, right? Is they'll go into Golf Galaxy or PGA Tour Superstore and they'll say, I want to buy the Rapsodo, right? And I mean, if you can afford it, like that's awesome.
Fine.
But at the same time too, getting feedback on every swing doesn't mean buying all of this tech. It could just mean, like you said, buying that $5 can of Dr. Scholl's and making sure your speed and your strike are good.
Right. So that's, that was one of our big takeaways from some of our podcasts at the end of last year was speed and strike. Can you control your speed? Can you control your strike? And so you can control your speed by watching where the ball lands on the driving range. Can you really holding your finish? That was our big one. And strike is just getting Dr. Scholl's foot spray, putting it on there. Like here, you've got all the numbers we can have on track, man. We've got the player's triangle that I drew up there. I've got AI features that can trace the hands, like
impact,
we got digital impact. Where's it hit on the face? Like you literally have everything at your fingertips. And so in that space is you need what you hear feedback loops. The tighter that feedback loop is, provided that the feedback is good feedback, it's great. If you look at a system like this and you start picking something apart that's not going to make you better, then it's a bad feedback loop. So the feedback loop needs to be correct and it needs to be quick. And so instruction provides that. Good coaching provides that. If you think high school, college kids, stats when you play your rounds provides that. Sure, you can get the Rapsodo, but like come in and train in here where you're actually controlling, because your body matters more than they control the numbers. So making sure when you make your good rep that you repeat that movement in a precise way is the way to do it. So it's a little sell to come in here, but genuinely, like we've already had people come in here who've been in, as we're learning and getting this thing open, that have said, this is how you get better. Like that's them telling us, like, Now I actually have feedback on every swing. Like, I've been fooled for so long.
Okay.
Right? Like, not in the sense of like you have to only be in here. Like, you got to take it out there.
For sure.
But like all of a sudden they're finally able to make sense of why I hit that ball. Or I hit it good, but then I look at the video like, I did that wrong? Really? I didn't feel like I did that wrong, but I hit it so good, right? So now they're having to actually deal with the fact that a good shot doesn't mean I made a good swing. And a bad shot doesn't mean I made a bad swing, right? So now we're talking about like, how do you actually get better? It's a combination of the shot and the swing. And so now you can marry those two together with our guidance. And by the way, you can't use this unless you're a student.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but how often do we got to come? Once a quarter. I'm not going to break the bank on you. But if you're going to use this, I'm not going to let somebody hand them an MRI machine that they have no idea what they're looking at.
That's
right?
a great comparison. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
If you hand me an MRI, I don't know what I'm looking at. That looks weird. That's actually normal, right? Like, we're going to guide you, and somebody will be in here manning this space. Like, sure, you can go rent something out for $40 somewhere else. It's $45 for here, or $50 somewhere else. It's $45. You have to be a student. So we have your lesson note sheets. We'll sit out. We'll draw the lines. We have somebody here manning the space to make sure that if you have a question about what you're looking at on the video, you have a guide all the time. So that's the right environment. Structure, accountability, and reinforcement.
I love what you said, all of that right there. I think what strikes a chord most for me and people who aren't listening to this in Franklin, Tennessee, or even Nashville in general, I think what really strikes a chord for me is no matter what you're doing, be focused on doing just that. And that's what this technology really brings you, is the instruction from the teachers that we have, but also the technology to be able to know just exactly what you need to accomplish in order to make your swing better. Right. I think what a lot of people get in, especially a spiral when you're on the technology, is that you're so focused on so many things that eventually you're not working on anything at all.
Right. Which is where the simplicity of old school golf instruction is really pretty beautiful. We'll get to that later, but it's narrowing that focus a little bit in here, I think is huge. But yeah, it's effective feedback loops. And I think that's the right way to think about it. You need effective feedback loops.
And then kind of transitioning this into our second practical tip here, when we take these feedback loops and put it on the course, don't try and deviate from what you've been doing here. Like, hit the shots that you know how to hit, right? There's so many people who get around the greens and they want to pull off the Phil Mickelson flop shot, when in reality you might just need to bump it up the hill and get it to stop. You know, like,
yeah, it's the one that gets frustrating for me that we talk about around this topic is somebody wants to, like, I need to know how to hit my long irons. I'm like, we can't hit your 8-iron and we don't chip well. Like, how often are you hitting a 4, 5, 6-iron when a 7-iron would still do okay given where your score is? This is for players from upper 70s all the way to hundreds. Like, that's not unique to high handicap players. Like, low handicap players tend to think like, well, I need to know how to hit a 4, 5, or 6 irons. Like, you really don't. That was the one we got all of this pushback on the range.
I was just about to mention that. Yeah.
Like, I'll let you talk on that one, but like, that was that got so much traction on YouTube. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Blah, 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 blah.
The one that really struck a chord for me, what Scott's talking about, if you guys want to go onto our YouTube shorts or TikTok, that is, we had a segment that was clipped out of context for the record, but
Right.
it was Scott talking about how when he's warming up, he doesn't hit many shots with your long irons because the value of those shots when you go out on the course is not
I'm not going to hit him very often.
Not tons,
Yeah.
right? To your point.
Yeah.
And then we had somebody on one of the comments that was like, well, those shots are just as important as your putts and actually even greater. Go read this book. And I was like, man, do you know how many times you're actually putting the ball compared to how many 4-irons you're hitting throughout the day?
Right. Or how many times you're going to hit a driver? Like,
right.
we hit it way more often than we hit a 4-iron.
So maybe don't hit your 4 and 3-iron when you're warming up and go hit a few more putts.
And I don't have to hit a 4-iron when I play. I can hit a 7-iron. So, like, my point with that, like, the practical tip is literally only hit shots you know how to hit. The thing we did for cracking the code this winter, and they're still doing it until next week when we put add some clubs back in, but is we asked them, think about basketball. We're in basketball season. March Madness is right around the corner. Like, we said, all right, if you look in your golf bag and you had to pick 5 starting players and one of them has to be a putter, So you got 4 starting players. Who are you putting in the game? Who
It's
are
cool
they?
when you think about it like that.
Yeah, you're like, who are my 4 starters? For some people, it might not be a driver. Some people, it might be a driver. Some people, it might be a pitching wedge, a 7-iron, a 5-wood, and a 3-wood. Whatever. I don't care what it is for you. And so, who are your 4 other starters? And those 5 players are the only 5 players you're allowed to use on the golf course. And I like thinking of it like that. And then we told them you get 2 bench players. Who are your 2 bench players? So you have a set of 7 golf clubs you can play with, and you only bring your bench players in when you need them, right? Like need versus want, right? Do I need them? Again, I don't have to hit it as close as I think I do. Do I need them, or do I just need to make sure I hit a good quality shot? And so, this is a draw hole. This is a fade hole. No. Why are we trying to do the fancy stuff? Let's come back. Let's do the basic stuff. Let's hit the shots I know how to hit. That's what every good coach does in every single sport that they teach and coach.
It's also fun, too, because you bring the playability back to the game. You know, we've talked about on past podcasts how, it's X number, I'm going to hit X club. Where it's like, well, why don't we hit a lower but stronger lofted club, you know, and maybe hit a different shape? Like, it just opens up what the game of golf is when I think about it.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way of thinking about, like, your creativity all of a sudden kicks in rather than you're like, I have to be perfect, kicks in. You're like, okay, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
We had a guy, he said, other than he had 3 triples the other day, shot 87. He's like, it's the best round I've ever hit the golf ball. He's in our winter program. Jim, shout out to you if you're listening. But he's like, but I had these 3 triples. I was like, but eliminate the 3 triples. Just make them bogeys. So I'm not going to do anything insane, like make them all pars. Like, that's 6 shots better. He shot 81. He's like, yeah, that would have been the best round I've ever played. I was like, okay, so what's our problem? And he's only got 7 clubs in his bag. Like, guys, it's simpler than it need. Like, don't make it harder. Just play shots you know how to hit.
So I guess if I had an example here,
I was going to say there's a third. Oh, you talking about for this?
No,
your third point.
Well, no, it's a sub point of this.
Okay,
of this one here, because we were talking about shots that you want to hit. Like,
yeah.
We've got a video that hasn't come out yet. It's still in the edit bay, but it's me. I right now I'm really working on a motion that's going to make my swing so stable. But I guess it's a couple months ago at this point, or a month ago at this point, we were filming a video out on the course where I cannot stop slicing my driver. Cannot. And it's weird because
this is so much fun.
I've broken 80 before. I have not had this much or this little confidence in my driver ever in my golf career at this point.
Right.
And so my whole point that I'm saying is I played last week and I just hit 2 irons off tees, and that was fine. It was fine. I hit actually more fairways than I probably would have with a driver.
And you're probably, like, if you're hitting the driver well, that club's 30 yards or more shorter than your driver.
Oh yeah. But in some ways too, with how much I love hitting my irons, it set me up for better numbers in.
Right.
Rather than just having a bunch of wedges sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I think that's cool. It's funny. We're like, what are the 3 practical tips? And I'm going, well, I mean,
there's a million.
There's a lot of different ones. Trying to take something that's palatable, and then I kind of came up with the first 2, and then I'm going, Jack, what would you give? Like, you've been on this journey. You've watched me teach a ton. Like,
yeah.
In a certain sense, like, I wouldn't tell you to quit your day job, but like, you could jump in and start being able to coach at some level because of how much you've just been around the whole team and everything we're doing. So, like,
yeah,
as a player who's gone on this journey from, the breaking, has he broken 80 yet episodes? Now it's going to be, has he broken, par yet episodes? Is like
this summer, or this season.
This season is what would be a simple takeaway from your experience with not just me, but with the team here that's been helpful to you that may or may not be on any of our other episodes?
Yeah, I think I appreciate your kind words about that I could jump in and coach at a level. I think that my technical knowledge is far less than my mental knowledge, if you will. And so
That's fair.
If I had to create a point or a practical tip, I would probably say the one that's been the most successful for me and it's vastly different than traditional teaching or what you'd see on like YouTube golf teaching. Focus on one swing thought. One. Not two, not one, not one and a half. With. Yeah, but just one. And right now it's just inside takeaway every single time.
Just until you can't do that wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's the one thing is really difficult. I think we've talked about this before, but this would be a fun exercise. I'd love to hear people's comments. Like, go grab your buddies. I don't care who you are. I don't know where you're listening. Go grab your buddies and just like, as you guys are hitting balls next to each other on the driving range or when you're playing on the golf course, just float this question every couple of swings so it seems random. Go, what were you thinking about on that one? Do it on a good shot. Do it on a bad shot. Do it on a neutral shot.
Do it on the good shots, and they won't realize that you're asking too.
Right,
They'll think, "Oh like, man, yeah, I'm glad you want to know what I did there."
Right? Like, what were you thinking? And mix it up. Don't just ask it every swing. Just mix it up a little bit. I guarantee you, you will not, unless you're dealing with a very high level player, get the exact same answer on every single swing. But if you go ask a tour player or a very high accomplished amateur, you will probably get something very close to the exact same thing. Like, I'm just trying to hit a shot. I'm just trying to hit a shot. Or just inside takeaway. Inside takeaway. And so having that singular line of thought, Hank used to say it this way: you cannot have a consistent thought unless you have a consistent swing. Sorry. Dang it, I said it backwards.
Yeah,
okay, you got it.
I hear
you
it.
cannot have a consistent, yeah, right. So like, if you want to have a consistent golf swing, you have to have a consistent thought.
Or line of thought, yeah.
Right. If the thought changes from swing to swing, you will never be consistent. Like, it's not possible. Like, the thoughts lead to action, right? So like, if my thought changes, my swing is going to change. Even if ever so slightly, it's going to change. Like, run that singular thing, to your point, like, over again.
What it does for me is there's so many different variables to think about in golf, right? And when I say only focus on one swing thought, I mean that, just one swing thought. But essentially, you know, when you get up to your ball, you're like, here's my lie, here's, you know, where I'm trying to hit, you know, here's the yardage that I'm really trying to go for. It's on the front of the green because the pin's in the middle, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But when you get to your swing, like your setup and your actual executing the swing, as long as it's the same thing every time, you can have confidence that you're going to be able to make the same swing every time, even though you're thinking about so many different variables.
Right. And narrowing that down, it's just like, it's so empowering to just try to master one thing. You can't do it all. Like, I can't do it all. Sometimes I'll get asked questions like, we'll get asked questions like, what'd I do wrong on that one? I don't know. Like,
the other thing is, do you want to know?
Do you want to know? Like, do you want to do that again? No. Okay, then why does it matter? Like, you never stop and ask me the question, what I do right on that one? You always ask, what did I do wrong on the wrong one? You can't try to not do the wrong thing and do the right thing at the same time. Like, try to do the right thing on every single swing. Like, hey, if you fall off the wagon, we're in that time of year where people start to fall off the wagon in their New Year's resolutions. Just go right back to where you started. One of my favorite, as a Christian, one of my favorite scriptures is around this topic is actually in Revelation. It's like, you have forgotten the things you did at first. Like, that's it. Yeah. Just go back to what you started with. Like, that principle works, whatever your religious belief is. Like, the thing that worked when you started, just go back to that.
The other thing,
go back to the thing that worked.
I'm thinking about, especially since you're a parent, right? I'm thinking just about the word consequences. And a lot of people don't realize that consequences, you can have positive consequences.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Consequences gets talked about in such a negative light. But if you can rephrase that to, man, if I just have this one swing thought, inside takeaway, every single time, I'm going to have positive consequences because of what I just said.
Right. That's so good. Like, yeah, like, I don't have anything to add to that. That's great. Like, yes, consequences are also positive. Like, hey, if I get up in the morning, every morning, when my alarm goes off and make my bed, good things are going to happen if I do that every morning.
100%.
Like, whatever it is. Brush your teeth.
What that means
Read a book,
for the golf swing too is this is why I love your teaching style so much, is because if I give you, if talking about you, if you give me one thing to do that's going to fix 3 or 4 other things. We're talking about the player's triangle. If I just get my takeaway right, my hands are going to be right, and it's going to stay in the triangle, everything's going to work out well, right? So it's like you don't need to think about inside takeaway, shallow the club, twist the club face on the way, exit left. Like, you don't need to be that granular.
And you can't do it that fast. It's actually neurologically impossible for you to run all of those. Your brain needs literally a full 0.2 of a second in order for it to switch. So if you got one in the takeaway, one at the top, one at impact, one at the finish, you don't have enough time to execute all of those movements. I don't
You're
care
talking about like the time the brain takes to like process all of that.
Correct. For it to actually change a movement, it needs a full 0.2 of a second. And the downswing happens in 0.2 of a second. So good luck.
Well, and this is also like when golf starts getting fun though, right? Because like when you are hitting the ball well, and let's say you're playing at a very like highly accomplished amateur level, this is when the term flow state starts to enter the chat. Right, to where it's like,
I like that phrase.
We're
flow state has entered the chat,
but like it's true, man. I mean, if you had those 18-hole rounds where like just everything is working, right? It's probably because you're thinking about one thing and you're just playing golf.
So essentially, what you're saying, I'm gonna phrase it in a little different way. See what you think about it. Is flow state can't happen with with a cluttered mind.
Well, I mean,
the flow state can't exists if there's multiple things going.
It's actually, I never considered it like that, but when you think about what flow state is, you just watch like Kobe Bryant highlights, or you watch like Tiger at the Masters, right? It's like they can't pull those off while trying to think about doing everything right. No, flow state is just doing it because you love doing it, and everything just kind of matches together like a puzzle piece.
And you've trained it to do so.
Totally.
Like it doesn't it's not like the hullabaloo, like,
no, it's not a miracle.
Just gotta believe it's good. It's like, if your motion sucks, like physics is gonna win at some point.
No, I mean, flow state happens because of the preparation that you've put in.
Right.
And that's why also too, most golfers never achieve flow state.
I was talking with a guy earlier today. He got to talking about Augusta, and he's like 80 and he has all these stories, and I think half his lesson is him just telling stories. But hey, in between there we get good work done. And we were talking about when Tiger won his last Masters. I cannot find the article.
It's about the 19.
Like, I cannot find it to save my life. It's the only Masters I've ever been to, too. I went on a Monday. And I
remember that, actually.
And it frustrates me that I can't find the article, but somebody had like recorded every club Tiger hit and the yardage and the whole deal for 18 holes. And he hit that day, I can't remember if it was 11 or 13, regardless, the number's phenomenal, that many 8-irons, 11 or 13 8-irons. The entire day for the final round, ranging from 130 to 180 yards.
That's what we were trying to do here with my 7-iron. Just couldn't do it.
So to our point, one of my was it our second point there?
Yeah, doing the simple things right.
Doing like the only thing that you do well, or is that point number 1?
Oh, you're talking about hitting the clubs that you know how to hit.
Right.
Yeah.
Only. Like, he hit his favorite club for 13 times, ranging. They had a 50-yard range. That's phenomenal distance control. But still, the point being, he realized it's a lot easier to lose that golf tournament than it is to win it. So he just waited there. I'm sure he had another gear, right? But the principle was, like, I don't have to do all the fancy stuff to win the golf tournament. In fact, I just have to do the basic stuff, which I'm going to hit a shot I can control with a club I control. I just hit 8-iron everywhere, and he can range it in 50-yard increments. Like, that is, to me, if there's something that everybody can do, hit your favorite freaking club as often as you can hit it. If you love a 7-iron, this is going to sound crazy, but try it. 7-iron off the tee, 7-iron approach to green, chip it on, 2-putt. Especially if you're somebody who's in the high 80s or 90s. Like, this club, just hit that everywhere.
I think that's where a lot of like amateurs who are just starting the game, or let's just say you haven't been playing for more than 5 years, I think that's what a lot of amateurs do is they think they have to hit every single club in their bag well. Because like I have to hit my driver off the tee. I have to hit whatever it is at that yardage to the green, and then I have to put it in. Like you don't have to do that. You can take a 7-iron off the tee. You can take another 7-iron up. As long as you're averaging 5 on every single hole, you're breaking 90.
You're crazy. Yeah, you're literally you're right at 90.
Well, you're right at 90. Just make a 4 on a par 5.
That's interesting. Say that again. Phrase that again. You say it the same way.
I said most amateurs think that they have to hit every club in their bag well.
That goes all the way into the college ranks.
I don't agree. Or excuse me. I do agree. I don't disagree.
Yeah. What if that's the problem? The fact that we're both at like this impasse is profound because it means we need to sit with that. By the way, this was not discussed ahead of the topic.
No, it was
This just came out. Like, you might have just said it in a way that like as golf professionals have noticed, and the thing that frustrates us is them asking about the 4-iron, or I need to hit my 7-iron farther, or how do I hit it closer, or I just can't hit this wedge shot. Like I can't hit this bunker shot. It's like, you don't have to do everything well. It's the same. You might have found the root. It's the same. Like, when my driver's good, my putting's bad. When my putting's good, my driving's bad. My iron's good, my wedges are bad. Like, I have to have, in order to play good golf, I have to have everything has to work.
And this goes back to the Tiger quote too, where Tiger's like, an interviewer asked him like, when did you have your A game out of all these tournaments that you won? When did you have your A game? Gosh. And he's like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said, maybe twice or 3. Like he said,
almost never.
Like never.
And to
your point, like when he had 13 8-irons, like
he just waited for Molinari to make a mistake.
Right. He realized that he didn't have to do everything well. And also too, talking about 19 Tiger, I know that was before the crash, but like he was
beat up.
Beat up, man. Like that guy was just he goes, I know I'm not playing as well as a prime Brooks Koepka right now, but like I know I'm smarter than Brooks Koepka.
And I know I can hit this 8-iron.
And I know I can hit this 8-iron better than Brooks Koepka. I've been hitting this 8-iron longer than Brooks Koepka's been alive. Like,
right. I've hit more 8-irons than Koepka's hit all of his clubs combined. Like,
and this also goes back to old man par that we talk about too. Old man par is hard to beat. Probably because he knows what he's doing. He knows his game.
Right. Like that is, and he just waited for Molinari to make a mistake. What my favorite, most iconic moment of that in golf tournament, especially with the like background knowledge of the only hitting that many 8-irons, when I went back and watched it again, is him standing on the green of the par 3 in Amen Corner after Molinari had hit it in the water, and Molinari's playing from the drop zone.
Is it 16?
12.
Yeah.
Tiger's up on the green. He's out of like the direct line of sight. He's just off the green. He's off to the left a little bit, but he's just standing there. To me, it's like a lion or a tiger standing over their prey.
Yeah.
Like, I just been lurking in the shadows all day, and then just like, gotcha, right? Like that to me, like him standing on that green was the moment in which everybody that was around Tiger, Molinari, his caddy, Tiger's caddy, anybody that could see it, anybody watching at home knew Tiger was going to win that golf tournament.
And talk about making the round come to you. Like he's played so many tournaments where he knows like, I don't care if it's on 12 or if it's on 16, right. Like you will stumble and I will take advantage of it. But think about how many tournaments you have to enter in order to understand the flow of a competitive round like that, to take it just like that.
And he must have known, like, I'm just going to hit 7 or 8 8-irons. And on the first 11 holes, like, I'm just sitting here chilling on 8-irons.
And he did it on, like, the 68th hole.
Yeah.
Or 67, 66 hole.
Yeah, 60th-ish. Oh, yeah. Yeah, something like that.
So it's like, holy cow, man. Talk about discipline.
And he probably didn't have the energy or the shot quality that he used to have in his prime. And so could he go get those shots if he absolutely had to? Yes, but he didn't like at that moment it just came to him, and then Molinari screws up again on another par 5, and it's over.
So, I mean, I guess just to recap these practical tips here before we go into another topic here, like the things we talked about was you need feedback on every swing.
Effective feedback.
It needs to be the right feedback.
And it needs to be quick.
And it needs to be quick every single time. So whether that's a Rapsodo, you looking at club face every single time, or whether that's Dr. Scholl's foot spray, making sure that it's speed and strike are good every single time.
Getting in here and having the lines drawn and working on your whatever we've given you to work on.
Bingo. From high to low, you've got an option at your disposal. You just got to make sure you're using it effectively. So that's number 1. Number 2 is hit the clubs you know how to hit. Be like Tiger. Hit all those 8 irons. Do whatever you got to do.
Just hit that one club.
You don't need to be lured in by your buddy saying, "Oh, this is a drivable par 4." Like, no, dude,
this is a draw hole.
It's like, no, this is a 6 iron, 9 iron, respectfully. You know, like,
yeah,
that's great. And then number 3 is focus on one swing thought. That was the Jack Beard one. Just positive consequences. Inside takeaway means good shot. That's just for me. You guys got to figure out what that means for you. Right. But one swing thought, good shots. So that's, dude, I love that.
That's so simple.
This is a conversation that I think ties in the first 3 points really well. And we were talking about this before the show, is just doing the simple things right. And like golf now is so technologically advanced. There's so many different teaching methods. Just talking about aim point recently. That's been a hot button topic on the PGA Tour, right?
You want to get me started? Let's go.
Just let's do the simple things, right? Let's reimagine the way golf is played. Right. So, I mean, like the first thing I have here is just old school teaching. You wanted to talk a lot about that.
Oh gosh. So going back to old school teaching, to try to pull back the lens a little bit. Like, let's hop in a time machine with me real quick. Let's rewind. Let's just call it 60 years. Let's go back to the 60s where you got Nicholas and these guys.
That'd be 80 years away.
Yeah,
now.
Sorry, 80.
Isn't that crazy?
Gosh, I'm thinking.
No, that's 60 years.
60
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I was thinking 60s. You said 60s.
But still,
60s.
Right, it's still a ton, right? We're
For
talking
sure.
Nicholas is in Palmer starting to become good in the late 60s, 70s. Hogan's on his way out. Like, there's a lot going on.
Where was Crenshaw in all of this?
I don't know. This is where when I put this together for my team, I kind of need to go through and like, here were your grades. Here's what was being taught. Like,
yeah.
Like I have more of the general idea, but like giving you the specifics are harder.
Yeah.
But he was around that similar time period. But keep in mind, driving ranges are a relatively new thing. You talk about specific targets with feedback on every one. That's Topgolf, right? That's TrackMan range at some of the fancy places, or that's Top Tracer range. Like, you've seen those at various places where they're super expensive for a club to have them. Buckets of balls are $25. Like, it's big. So that's what we have currently. It used to be driving ranges were an afterthought. People are like, why don't you do more of the driving range? Because this driving range was an afterthought in the 80s or 70s or whenever it was built, right? Like, this was not a forethought to put a good driving range in. So we've made the most of what we have.
And we've got one of the better ones, too, which is crazy when you think about that.
So driving ranges were an afterthought. You didn't have a driving range. You might have a little area that's 50 yards. And so as somebody who wanted to come in and take a golf lesson, and typically your golf professionals were going out and like hanging out with the members or the people who play there. They go play with them and they give them tips as they go. Well, what do we have to have in that scenario with a tip as you go while the player's playing? You have to have a couple things. One, it has to be simple because you don't have time to stop and explain. You don't have video.
Yeah.
Right. So
you can't you can't have 10 reps at the same thing.
Nope. You don't have time. Right. It's not structured to do that. So it's got to be simple. It needs to be what I would call actionable, which means they can change it quickly. If they don't change it in a swing and it doesn't work, like if they can't change it quick, if it's a difficult, like we got to get your right elbow here, like that's not the way it was taught back then. Because to learn how to put the right elbow there requires a lot of practice, and a lot of reps. So golf instruction came from your golf professional who played with you. You'd get a lot of course strategy type tips like, hey man, we're not going to hit that club. We're not good at hitting that club. We're going to hit these clubs. So a heavy course strategy, playing angles, like things like that. play into your strengths. Like that was a big one. But what you also had was not only was it simple, not only was it actionable, it had to fix the golf ball quick. Because if it doesn't fix the golf ball quick, they're not going to commit to it. And they got to do it on the next shot. It has to work. Like if it doesn't work and it requires, I got to get 1,000 hours on this thing to get it good. It's like, no, it needs to work now.
Well, so what was an example of those like quick tips, if you will? And like, I'm always hesitant with the phrase quick tips because those quick tips sometimes, I'm not going to say all the time, are exactly what they are. They're a Band-Aid instead of a real fix. So like, but back in the day, how did this happen?
Back in the day,
to be effective and sustainable,
it better work long term.
So right? How is it?
It better not work on one swing.
Yeah.
Right? If it works out there under pressure in the moment, it's good.
Right.
I was talking with a tour player friend of mine, called me for some help a few weeks ago. I'm not gonna share who, but he's like, I'm trying to work on this stuff on the forward swing, and like it, I can't put in, I can't put in 5,000 reps for this to work. Like I need it to work now. I need to be able to take it and go now, right? Like that's what you're dealing with at that level. Like it better work now. Guess what? That same principle can apply. If you pick the right thing, it'll keep working for the long term. And so golf professionals figure it out pretty quick, especially if you play 18 with the guy, which is a lot of the cases. It's like you go play 18 with them. If it stops working on hole 12, you realize that wasn't it either. So like the instructor has to process faster. They have to think faster. Have a better way to do it without complicating it either. Because at that point, now you can get complicated because it didn't work. So now what? Right? So you've got to, it was quick, it was simple, it was actionable, and it fixed the golf ball fast. And so like with no driving range. And so how are they going to practice it? They go play again. So pressure helps force them to do it. Hey, if you got a whole bucket of balls here to hit, what incentive is there on the next ball? There's not. What incentive is there on the ball in front of you? There is none. But as soon as I go, hey, I'm going to bring these 5 guys over to the driving range and watch you hit this next golf ball, guess what? Typically that next golf ball is one of your best ones. And so doing it out there forces you to do it now. That's
so interesting too, because when we like just talking about the concept of driving ranges, like I'm going to preface this by saying golf needs to be an accessible sport to everybody, and however you like playing the game of golf, that's fine. Just be, okay with what you want to do and how you want to experience the sport. However, one thing that I feel like is super detrimental that we just kind of talked about there is a lot of people are playing the sport of driving range and not playing the sport of golf.
Yeah, well, I can't take my driving range swing to the golf course. Yeah,
because you haven't played enough golf.
Right.
But I say that to say, it's like, sure, you can't, some people don't have the time to invest 4.5 hours into a round of golf, but be okay with how you're going to play if that's the case.
So, like, to me, that's the art of what I got to spend 10 years learning from.
Totally.
And we are massively in danger as an industry of losing that. And I feel a responsibility to maintain that and teach it to my team. And I don't have all the answers, but there's a lot that I don't know from that time period. But I tell you what, those golf instructors back then, those golf professionals, they could fix golf swings so fast, man. It's crazy. We talk about picking high targets versus low targets to fix golf swings. We use visuals. Like, hey, man, like you slicing a lot. I want you to just pick some high targets up there and move the ball back in your stance. Let's have some fun. That's one. So that's one way to fix a slice. You got changing your stance line. It was common back then. You just offset your feet, follow your feet, move the ball back. Player that's hooking it, you just tee the ball down like that and tell them to just knock the tee out, and that'll stop hooking it. You got send the tee down the driving range. I'm just, as quickly as I can think about them, listing them off. But like, you got to know when to use those. How do you know when to use those? You got to watch somebody do it, or you got to go out and try it. Like, and guess what? Doing it here on the driving range isn't the same as take them out there and make them do it immediately. We should try some golf lessons like that. If you're a listener of the podcast, come out. Let's see if I can give you a golf lesson on the fly. I've got more practice than most on doing that, but that would be a challenge for me because I'm in danger of losing that too, even though I may have some of the tools. Application is hard.
So
it's very hard.
You gave me a book a couple years ago, written by Butch Harmon,
The Pro.
Yes, talking about
Stephen Cherry
watching his dad, Butch Harmon Sr.
Yeah. I hope you're telling the story that I think you're going to tell.
Well, I don't know if I will, but like, long story short, that like the whole thing that I wanted to bring up is just the fact that like these club pros used to be the pros playing on the tour. And so these guys are like, of course they can make you figure out what you want the ball to do because they're doing the same thing on the weekends when they're competing in these tournaments.
Immediately.
And so it's really cool to hear Butch talk about his dad and getting to like follow all of these amazing players. He talks a lot about following Sam Snead and all of his tips and tricks.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, how invaluable of a golf education is that to be able to walk with your dad around these other best players in the world and get to experience, hey, this is how I hit this shot, this is how I hit this shot. And meanwhile, they're betting on the side while they're doing it. So it's like
they are throwing pressure on top of themselves
Yes.
every moment of every shot.
In the arena of golf, not in the arena of driving range, in the arena of golf.
Well, and what things like TrackMan Range and Topgolf have done, they've kind of gamified the range a little bit and added a little bit of pressure in some places. And like I've done that some with this tech, like knowing how to use it to help create some of that gamifying and trying to speed up maybe some of the learning process. Like I can teach people how to, deal with lies on TrackMan. Not as good as you can. Obviously they're hitting on a nice turf, but like
level turf. Yeah. But
they can understand the principles.
Totally.
Then we go out on the golf course. So it's knowing how to use it, but there's still nothing replaces actually playing.
What we need to do that you talked about a couple years ago that we actually need to do on the back range at some point.
I have no idea what you're about to talk about.
I know you don't. I'm kind of excited because I think this is something that would be cool. We talked about at one point having like a push-up bump on the.
We have it back there.
Well, we just need to turf it.
It is turfed. It just needs to be mown down.
Well, it needs to be mown down then at that point. But like using that bump with almost everybody at a certain level of experience, I feel like is an invaluable lesson that needs to be had every time. Reason I say that, I was playing my round out here last week, and I'm on number 2, and I hit it into the humps about 50 to 80 yards.
Oh, you hit it in the little bumps over there
on the right side.
Ooh, dude, those are gnarly, especially with a wedge in your hand.
100%. And so I had a super severe uphill lie on the back of one of these humps, and so I knew I needed to gas it a little bit because it's going to come out high, and I knew that I also needed to play with the slope so that I wasn't digging my edge too much, digging that leading edge.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, all right, I don't really care about form right here. It kind of reminds me of the Jordan Spieth shot that he had in, the Ryder Cup a couple of years ago. Just lean back on that back foot, throw it up in the air, and just have the confidence that the height is going to be enough to keep it on the green.
Yep.
Sure did. But I feel like so many people, when we talk about having multiple swing thoughts,
and you don't have to do it that way either. You can try to flight it into the hill.
Totally.
You don't have to let it go up.
Totally. But I just think about people who are focused on too many swing thoughts at once, right? Like you're never going to have the creativity to do that if you're focused on so many different things.
Right. We've taken that by trying to put perfect in with all of this tech. We've taken the athlete out.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
In trying to be robots, we've removed the athlete. Unintentionally, mind you.
Totally.
Right? Because like physics is physics, right? Like the more you are in line with physics, the better you're going to hit it. You should. But there's also the intangible of like, hey man, your baseball form on that pitch looks perfect, but you don't actually know how to control the pitch. Like, yeah, you did it right, but how come I can't control the amount? Well, because that's called practice. That's called feel. That's called not having to be perfect and finding your way. I never thought that there were different ways to throw the same pitch until we went to the Sounds
baseball
game.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then you sent me some different videos. I'm like, oh, so guys don't throw the pitch the same way.
Oh no, God,
just
no.
like. I would think that that's more uniform than a golf swing because of it's not an easier movement, but it's a little bit simpler from a functional movement because you're You're not having to strike an object against another object that's sitting against another object, right? You're just
Fair.
releasing an object.
Yeah, when I told you how the fingers, like when you're pitching a baseball, the fingers act as the grooves on a club, you were like, whoa.
Like, wait, huh?
You're like, but that makes sense, right? When you're trying to hit a draw or a fade in golf, it's the same thing when you're throwing a pitch.
But guys hold that ball differently to throw the same type of pitch in their way of throwing the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is that? Like, I have yet to read an article, and maybe one exists, of like, what is that? Like, that's athleticism. That's what we mean by somebody's athletic, is they find their way to do the thing.
And when you can do that thing better than anybody else, congratulations, you just got paid.
Right.
Like that,
you are
a
professional athlete.
That's it, right?
Yeah. In your way,
mm-hmm.
that nobody else can do at an insanely high level. Like John Rahm. Like, you know how many people can hit it from there that good? Not very many. You just can't. Like, you just can't. So, like, to me, in a lot of ways, there's so much, like, the old school way of teaching trumps the new school jargon. I'm not saying it's better than the new school teaching, but I think there are some things about it that the new school needs to go back and learn from. And the old schools, like, learn from the new too. Like, hey, you know what? The reason why this person's this way, we fixed that one piece. Boom, we got to see it change immediately on the video, and we can prove it, and we can prove it out in TrackMan. And so if I'm wrong as a teacher, I know faster, right? Like, so there's merit to that.
I will be really interested to see, like, when these new school guys, you know, I'm thinking about, like, the Akshay Bhatias, the Sahith Tagalas, for God's sake, Nick Dunlap, right? Like, these new school guys, when they start becoming the prime or the aged people, like, I just wonder what the new school is going to end up looking like.
There's going to be something new.
For sure. And I'm just curious, like, are we going to get a time where it's like, oh, crap, where the whole golf industry goes, well, we do need to go back to basics here.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things about the old school that I really loved, is you went with something that was basic. And we want to skip the basics so much in modern age. It's like, well, Scott, what's the data to prove it? I'm like, man, why does everything have to have a perfect proof? Guess what, people? I don't care how much you try to do everything. Like, oh, well, this scientific study said that drinking this or eating this will make me live 3 years longer. They can't prove that. Are you kidding me? There's too many variables in the human body and the human condition and the human life to be able to narrow that down. Like, we get so, talk about paralysis by analysis. We get so enamored with all the fancy things. I just know why I can't lose weight. Unless you have some weird medical condition, which, guess what? Most people don't have some weird medical condition. It's called eat less and more healthy natural foods, like whole grains, whole fruits, like
calories out, calories in.
Calories out, calories in. Simply, I just don't know why I'm losing weight. I'm eating a lot
even there,
less.
you were trying to go too much. It's like, no, calories in, calories out. That's what it is.
It's literally, it's a basic addition subtraction problem. Like, I've put on 25 pounds in the last 60 days.
Of good weight, for those who don't know Scott.
Right.
Scott's a bean pole, and so he put on a bunch of weight.
In a healthy way.
Totally.
It started super basic. All I've done is push-ups, pull-ups, and deadlifts. That's it. That's all I've done. I've done it 5 days a week, and I eat. I have to eat more.
So great.
I can't ever gain any weight. Scott, you're just so skinny. It's like, I used to be skinny. I was like, you started eating more and started doing less. Like, fundamentally, that's it. And I just didn't eat enough. Like, but you eat such a big meal. You saw me eat one meal. You didn't see me not eat the other two.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, it's so simple. Like, man, I got so many things wrong in my golf swing. I was like, what's the basic thing? And when you have to go on the golf course with them and you don't have a driver range to figure it out, you default to something basic that you at least know won't make them worse. Fundamentally, here you got time to try, which is good and bad. Like, what's the easiest answer? What's the simple answer? You know, like, I'm just so bad at math. Why don't you try studying more and asking for more help? Like, in a world of so much information, the most basic things is often the best place to go. And that's old school. And we use the new school tech, but bring in old school attitude and approach
Oh, love that.
to making you better.
So good.
And you get the best of both worlds. And that's when this becomes like, you become almost enamored with the tech. Like, oh, I'm just going to try and make that one thing crazy good. And guess what? I'm going to stress you out and make you do a challenge here at the same time. Right. So, that's the thing for me. It's the aim point is the one that I really wanted to, like, that's the buzzword. Like,
well, hold on here, because this is a new segment here of the No Mulligans podcast. we're calling it the 19th hole, and it's going to be a hot button topic.
Oh, I didn't know how this is going. Okay, good.
So
cool.
this is called the 19th hole here. We're going to try and do this on every podcast going forward, where we take a hot button topic that's happening on the PGA Tour right now or in the golf world, and we try and no mulligans it. Or
you held this back from me. I love this. I didn't know what it was going to be. Okay,
so
great.
This week it's aim point. There's recently been you can talk about how there's been some talk in aim point right now with Lucas Glover, but we're gonna take a hot button topic here and then give the no mulligans take on, are they doing it well? Is it well intended with poor execution, or is it something that we need to abandon altogether?
Oh man,
talk a little bit about what Lucas Glover was saying and
so pace of
what's
play
happening right now on the tour.
Pace of play is an issue right now.
Yes, big time. They've talked about how
it's been an issue for 20 years. It's not new per se. It's just way more obvious right now.
So they've been trying to, when I think about poor pace of play, I think about the Brian Harmon club waggle.
Right.
13 times or whatever it is that he does, right? And then I also think about how recently on the PGA Tour, Cantlay too. Recently on the tour, though, they've been talking about using lasers or rangefinders in competitive play in order to help this. I don't think that's going to be the answer.
No, like if that's the answer, it would work. It's not like what's taking all the time isn't the rangefinder. They're still trying to figure out like how many it's got to carry this, it's going to carry that. They're still going to use their yardage books. Fundamentally, they've been finding players like crazy. Like even from the Corn Ferry all the way up to the PGA Tour.
Even commentators now are commenting on it, where previously they weren't.
They're getting fined. It's not that the tour's doing nothing. It's that they're doing the thing that doesn't work. Like throwing more money at the problem isn't the problem. Fundamentally, this is my take on it. You want guys to play faster, start giving them a penalty shot every time they're over the mark. Like that will stop it. Literally immediately, it will stop. Like. That's it. Like, you have to give them definition of when's your start and when's your stop.
So, talking about aim point here.
Yeah.
Lucas Glover recently came out and he was saying how bogus aim point is and how people are going up and stomping on the green next to the cup, trying to feel it out.
Their line,
and
all that.
And Lucas Glover is coming out and say, like, statistically, aim point is not improving people's green reading at a rate where it is justified for it to be a deal.
Right. And I don't know where he's pulling that piece of data from. Aimpoint espouses how good it is and how it's helped players. But is there the potential that it's a false positive? It's a placebo effect. It just gives them security to pick something.
For those those amateurs who are listening right now, kind of describe at a 101 level, at like a 2 sentences, if you will, what aim point is and why. I'll start there. What is aim point? So
aim point is effectively a measure of the slope of the green, and then you use this is actually Aim Point Express is what they're referring to on the tour. Aim Point used to have like a whole chart for the green and this amount, this percentage and this, and you could do it mathematically, and the tour's like, we're not going to do that. But Aim Point Express is allowed, which is guys train their feet to feel a 2%, 3%, 1% slope. And then based on that, they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and speed of the green would adjust how far away their arm is. And you got different arm lengths. So like the funny thing is, like, if you really think about aim point, you're like, how accurate is all of this? Like if you really dive into the Aim Point Express, you're like, that seems more uncertain than just looking at it. Like, you're trying to take out uncertainty. The problem is that's just built in the nature of the fabric of human life, is there is uncertainty. And so they stand, and there's a whole way of, like, you stand at the ball, you stand halfway, and you feel that, and then you go back to your ball and you stand behind it and you go, okay, it's that much, use your dominant eye. Okay, now that's my spot, I'm going to aim at that spot. Like, how good are you at actually aiming at the spot anyway, right? Like, there's that. So there's, it's given a lot of players a place to land. I think that's where its value is. It's like, this is what I'm going to commit to. Back to your one swing thought, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
this is making more sense.
It gives them a place to land.
Uh-huh.
However, you would have, in order to do a scientific study to prove that it actually works, you'd have to actually make it scientific and measure it against some other like known thing, like somebody telling them it's right here. It's right. Like, do you think it's more or less than that? And so the idea of aim point is to give you certainty about what the line is based on the slope on the green that you feel with your feet, which you have to train. And no green is a perfect 4% slope. It's going across multiple slopes, and they have ways to mitigate that. And like, that's the whole idea of aim point. And it at least to their mind, and maybe to some degree on a stat card, it has helped people. But it's kind of one of the most unathletic looking things in all of sports. I hate watching it. I went and watched a dual meet against 2 college women's programs do this. You know how long? It's a dual meet. There's only 10 girls playing, right? It could be a guy's program. It doesn't matter. It just happened to be, we watched a girls exhibition, right? And so,
but when they're all doing
the round took 5.5 hours. It's aim point express. It's meant to be quick. Like, it's not designed to take the time that guys are taking with it.
There we go.
It's designed to be quicker. It should be quicker. I think Mark Sweeney he's the founder of it. He would tell you it's designed to be fast. It's not designed to take all this time.
Do you think Mark Sweeney would?
He's a really smart dude. He's gonna. Yeah, go ahead.
Would you say that he would he? I mean, other than the fact that it's his invention, do you think that he would agree that aim point is going to slow down rounds over time the way it's going right now?
I don't think he would. I think his goal is to speed it up, right? Like, you use it to speed up the green reading process when you're uncertain.
Well, that's the intention, but is it actually happening is the question.
I don't know. I don't have the evidence to prove that it's the thing that's slowing. I don't think it's the thing that's slowing play down substantially or not. I don't have the evidence there. And to me, that doesn't matter. The thing that, and maybe at the highest level, maybe I don't know. Like, apparently it doesn't. Apparently, according to Lucas and whatever the science stats say, I'm sure there'll be something that comes out about that. But the thing for me is we're going for the fancy thing. Give me, I can't read greens. Like, give me the thing. I'm like, guys, let's think about this. Do you like uphill putts or downhill putts more? Oh, uphill putts. I'm terrible at downhill putts. Okay, what do we know about downhill putts? They break more and they're faster. Do you tend to hit putts too hard or too soft? Most people fundamentally hit their putts too firm with too little break. Well, downhill putts are faster and they break more. But people don't account for the fact that, like, all that downhill putts do is just expose the fact that people hit putts too firm and they don't play enough break. Fundamentally, that's the only difference, is that it exposes the problem. So, like, what's the low-hanging fruit, right? Like, what's the simple thing? The simple thing is, all you need to do is play more break and hit your putt softer. Harvey Penick, better to leave a putt 6 inches short than to hit it 2 feet by. And
so I think this is great. Because this is simple, right? This is what we've been talking about the whole podcast. This is simple, right? Less pace, more break. When we always talk about finding the left dial and then finding the right dial, right? So if the left dial is too firm and no break, and the right dial is less firm, more break, how do you get somebody to find that middle if they're hitting now to or less firm and adding more break? If they're giving the putt more justice than it's supposed to, that's a hot button topic for amateurs.
That's a wonderful question. So the first is, so it's even funny. Like, even in asking the question, you're looking for the certainty for the listener, right?
Sure.
But it's like everybody's chasing this perfect certainty. It's like, how are you so unconfident that you can't do anything? Like, that's what I come back to. I'm like, you can learn. Well, why can't you learn?
Here,
like,
let me stop you real quick.
Play more break and hit it soft. And like, well, I didn't play enough. Play more. Play more.
The other thing too that we're completely taking out of context here. This is where everybody gets in trouble, right? We're micro focusing on a part of the game where if you zoom out, let's say you just hit your approach shot to 35 feet, okay, and you've got a birdie putt that's 35 feet, right? If you give it a little too much break and hit it a little on the softer side, and it comes up 3 or 4 inches short of the cup, congratulations, you just got to tap in par. Like,
right.
This is the thing that people are trying to sink these 35 to 70 foot putts.
They're trying to make 12 footers and they leave themselves with 5 footers.
No, get out of there with par and then try and hit it closer on the next hole. Like,
right. It's not, playing better golf is not about making more birdies.
Yes.
Playing better golf is about eliminating bogeys and doubles and higher.
Mm-hmm. So when people are saying here, oh, this is slowing down the game, like I'm trying to make every single putt, all that kind of stuff. No. It's let the game come to you. Let the round come to you.
The simpler problem is that we're not looking for patterns when they're dead obvious in front of your face, which is a player that needs aim point. They're like, well, I'm right and I'm left. I'm long and I'm short. I'm long and I'm short. I'm like, which one comes first? Why don't you just try and hit every putt short? Does that fix it? Why don't you just try and hit every putt too long? Does that fix it? Why don't you hit every putt with more break? Does that fix it? Why don't you hit every putt with less break? Does that fix it? Like, if you ran through all 4 of those and you played 5 rounds with all 4 of those, I guarantee you find the problem with your putting.
With this being said, what's 2 drills that you would give somebody out on a practice green over here?
I wouldn't even give it on a practice green.
Well, I'm just saying, like, what comes to mind first, I'm thinking, like, okay, let's practice, like, 50 footers and lagging them into a hula hoop circle kind of deal.
Oh, that, like, the old school, like, we're back to the simple old school, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's exactly right.
Hey, man, just try to hit it into a 3-foot circle around the hole. Mm-hmm. That would be wonderful. But even then, people are trying to make it. I'm like,
yeah.
Why don't you try to play? And this is what I gave to Micah Stangby, for those that know him and play around here. He's won 5 college events. And Elijah caddied for him in an event, and he struggled with his putting. I was like, Elijah, how do you do on his first 3 holes with his speed? He's like, hit him all too firm. I was like, okay, great. Even if he made him, he's like, hit him too firm. I was like, great. Okay, so Micah, we came up with a rule for Micah. I said, Micah, here's what I want you to do. I want you to leave every putt above the hole and short in the first 3 holes. It cannot drop below the line. It cannot go past the hole. It has to finish in that one quadrant, above and short, for the first 3 holes. And you got to do 3 in a row on the first putt. It's like, Scott, what if I have an 8-footer that I got a good chance for birdie? Leave it above the hole and short, please. It's not about what happens on that one hole. It's about where the round goes. And so the practical, like, on the golf course piece is, for your first 3, you got to do 3 in a row. So if you screw up the second hole, you got to do it on 3, 4, and 5. You got to leave it above the hole and short.
And then he can start trying to make them after he gets 3 in a row.
And then he can then at that point, he will know which one's off. Is my speed more off or is my line more off? And then, okay, well, I'll just, like, maybe he's gotten it right to the hole on all 3. Like, he's really close to that. I'll just bring my line down a little bit and it'll drop.
Okay, I see this now. Yeah.
Or I just need to hit it firmer. Like, dude, Scott, those were so close to just going dead in the heart. I just need to hit them firmer. So you just hit them firmer. Right? You will know very quickly about which one to adjust. And guess what you're adjusting to? You're adjusting to a more assertive thing. And a more assertive thing is usually a better motion, a more confident motion, a more athletic, a more free, a better flow state motion. Whereas the moment you hit that first one hard, what does everybody go, oh, shit, we've talked about this. Like, no. So, like, everybody wants the fancy answer. It's not about the fancy answer. It's about the simple stuff that nobody wants to accept because, like, well, it can't be right if it's that simple. What if it can be? Like,
hey, which kind of brings up the point here to finish off the 19th hole here is, like, I appreciate what Lucas is trying to say, but it's not the reason why rounds are going so long.
Right. Nobody's penalized him for it.
I'm talking about, like, taking too long for the shot. I'm just talking about he's saying, well, if we just take aim point out,
that's still not going to, it might speed it up a little bit, maybe.
Sure, but that, again, this gets back to, like, no mulligans thing. The whole answer is, like, it's not putting.
No,
it's just getting these guys to play faster.
They need to hurry up. Hey, we got a shot clock in baseball now. We got a shot clock in
TGL.
We got shot clock. I think that's great. I think that's good for golf to start thinking, and I think it's getting people to think more like that.
I was watching the most recent match between LA and Boston, and Tommy is standing over a putt, and Justin Rose is watching the shot clock, and he's getting down to like 4, 3, 2, and Rosie goes, "Send it, mate! Send it, mate! Send it, mate!" And like Tommy punts the ball, and I'm like, "Yes, this is golf, baby!
This is how it should be.
That's fun, man.
Like,
that's fun."
What if there's a referee on every hole? And they start the clock. and there's for most holes, like maybe there's one on a dog leg. There's one like sitting up in the trees that's counting down, and it's just like, maybe it's just a flash and it starts to flash red and it's not even a number. Maybe it's an actual shot clock. Like pitchers have a shot clock, right? That they can see.
Yeah, we do have a pitch clock now. Yeah. But I'm also thinking just about what we have in the carts right now at Franklin Bridge. Like it tells you when you're slow, and pace of play back in 2020 when Brooks first took over this place, 19, I guess it was, like pace of play was the number one issue here at what used to be Franklin Bridge, or excuse me, Forest Crossing.
Forest Crossing, home of the 6-hour round.
Bingo, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we did a lot of stuff to improve that, but once we got the digital maps in the cart as well, I feel like pace of play has been pretty on point. I've never finished
without having to have a marshal on you the entire day, which is what we used initially.
Yes.
And so now we only send them out for egregious errors. So it's which is good. So you don't feel like somebody's like on you all the time.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember who mentioned it. I don't know if it was another tour player or somebody else I know, but they said, you're asking, the average golfer who's in basically a 20 handicap who shoots in the 90s, you're asking them to play in under 4 hours? And you guys are the best players in the world. I don't care if you're playing for your life. You're the best players in the world. You guys can't play in under 4 hours in a twosome. You're asking them to play that in a foursome?
Great point, yeah.
And carts, if it's cart path only, that ain't faster.
Yeah, you know who is fast? Matthew Fitzpatrick.
Right.
Be more like Matt Fitzpatrick, man.
Just go, and Brooks Koepka. It's like part of the nature of mastery. We've talked about this. Like the ACT and the SAT and the GRE, you don't have unlimited time. There's a reason you don't have unlimited time, because time helps us tell what kind of mastery you have over everything. Do you have mastery over your mind to stay focused under pressure? Do you have mastery of the concepts? Do you have mastery of the golf course and the wind? Are you paying attention? So it will show us who the best players in their entirety actually is if you require them. There's no reason they should finish. There's no reason that they should finish in longer than 4 hours. Well, conditions make it different. I don't care. Finish in 4 hours. If you don't finish in 4 hours, everybody in your group gets a one-shot penalty.
I love that.
Dude, it's the answer that nobody wants to say.
Yeah. That's the no mulligans answer to pace of play right there.
It will solve it immediately. You don't have to spend any more money. You don't have to fine them. Players get to keep the money in their pockets. Maybe it's harder to make it. I don't care. Like, you want to stop pace of play, you start giving them penalty shots. Period. It's game over. End of discussion. There's no discussion that needs to be had.
I'm also sick.
But I don't care. You're the best players in the world. I'm not asking my my lady who's 77 years old playing with her buddies. 2 of them are brand new to the game. I'm not asking them to play in less than 4 hours and not hold you to the same standard.
Yep. I mean, that's what it is.
It's not even unfair. It's asinine.
I'm also sick of the concept too of, like, for example, it was a big hot button topic when baseball got the pitch clock, right? And now it's turned into something that's like pretty great. Honestly, it just keeps everything moving. I'm sick and tired of golf being such an elitist sport that they're so uppity about the fact that, like, of course it takes long. Like, they're playing for their lives out here. Like, it's a game of perfection. It's like,
high school and college kids are getting penalty shots for slow play. LPGA Tour players are dealing with it more than the PGA Tour players are, from what I've heard. I don't have, straight hand knowledge. I'm like, what is that? Give the guys penalty shots, and if they don't like it, they can go home. There's plenty of guys on the Korn Ferry Tour that would love to play. Go home. I know that's strong, but, like, let's just stop. I'm just tired of the discussion. It's been going on for a decade. The discussion shouldn't have gone on more than 3 months.
Yep, agreed.
Like, but that's an unfair assessment of the penalty. This is the thing with referees the entire time. Like, sorry, pace of play, let's play fast.
Hey, question. If pace of play wasn't an issue, do you think Live Golf would be a league right now?
Ooh. I don't know. Live golf's just such a different thing.
And we could go on a tangent about that forever, but the reason why I say that is because I loved your idea of what you said as far as like, if you can't get in the clubhouse in 4 hours and 10 minutes, everybody gets a 1-stroke penalty.
Yeah.
Like, I love that because that incentivizes you to play fast for the entire duration of the 18 holes.
Right.
And I feel like when Live started becoming what it was, back a couple years ago now, like, it was trying to make golf more fun. And it's like, golf didn't need to be more fun.
Just need to hurry up.
It just needed to hurry up, honestly. No, I mean, that's what it is. You don't need to add more excitement to the game by blasting music at every hole and like having these team formats and like, no, you just hurry the hell up. Excuse me, but like, hurry up. And like, it also upsets me too.
Imagine a guy's got a 5-shot lead.
Yes, and
he has 2 pace of play penalties, and he's only up 3 all of a sudden in 2 holes.
And I think that the thing that really disappoints me is because like, I would love to watch Dustin Johnson. I'd love to watch John Rahm. I'd love to watch Phil Mickelson. I'd love to watch these guys playing on the PGA Tour every week, because at the end of the day, like, as much as I want opportunity for all these up and coming players, I don't care who's in 18th place right now on the PGA Tour. But yeah, I care if that's John Rahm and he's about to go on a tear to get into the final pairing in the last day.
Yep. And you get exactly 3 minutes to look for your golf ball. That's it.
Man, Bryson would have been penalized get out in the Masters that one year.
What's funny about that? They did that to help improve pace of play. It didn't. No, they doing it for the masses, not just for the PGA Tour.
Sure,
but it's guys. The answer is so simple. Just like all the answers to fixing most golf swings are fairly simple. It may be hard to discern what it is, but the answer is usually pretty simple. And so just give him penalty shots and it stops. You can get guys are going to be mad. Well, then don't play slow. Like, coaches are screaming at their players in football when we get a delay of game penalty. Like, it's so basic. Like, you know how much time you have. Like, either call a timeout, don't cost us 5 yards when all of a sudden we got 3rd and 5. Now we're 3rd and 10. Like, great. Cool, man. Don't do the stupid, that would get riveting. And then like the player be having a debate against the rules official that's on there. Like, that would get like thrilling.
Be awesome. That'd be awesome.
Can we review this play at the end of the game? Nope. Sorry, man. There's no reviews on pace of play.
It's so good.
Put a shot clock up.
I think that's the no mulligans answer right there.
It's so simple. And I agree. Get rid of aim point. I'm just like, guys, the answer's simpler, and it's not going to solve your confidence problems. It'll be a temporary fix, and it will stay a problem for you. Just do it. The answer's easy. It's easier than you think. I promise. And Jack knows this because he's kept the game pretty simple, and I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about watching you learn, even in all your inquisitiveness, is your ability to still go right here, whatever that is. And I think that's one of the marks of your success is you like to learn about the complex stuff, but you also appreciate just coming back to the most basic thing.
I guess
you finish it off.
My last comment here just about that. I appreciate the kind words. I think a lot of people are missing is they think that the answer is written in the complicated things. But in reality, if you can do the basic things right, you will understand why the complicated things are what they are. That's what I learn about it. Is because like when you're telling me you need to do this in order for it to do that, I'll ask questions about, well, why is this? Why that? I love the physics of it. I love hearing about everything. But okay, I know that if I can just do this right, my body will then feel what those complicated variables are. And I think that's what makes me who I am, is because then I can, when I get the basics right, you can then apply the difficult things, and then you can really start having fun. Like what I'm talking about on that shot on 2. Throw it up in the air, see what sticks, man. But that's only because I knew
it might work,
take
and it might
inside,
not.
square the face. That's the only reason I knew how to do that was just the club anchoring that we've been doing the past 6 months to make sure that the face was where it needed to be. But that's the complicated answer. So.
Do we have anything else? I think that's about it. I love this 19th hole thing.
Yeah. It'll keep us an up-to-date podcast on what's going on in the PGA Tour world, and I think it's good to show people what we think about a topic that's happening right now. Because I think we do have a tendency to, like you said, use all of the fancy tech, but then explain it in the most simplest form.
Well, TGL is an interesting one that I haven't fully formulated an opinion on yet.
I think we need to watch a few more weeks before we have a podcast on it. I've got some good topics on.
I haven't watched a full. I've just watched highlights.
We should
doesn't
do.
excite me, but I guess I actually need to actually watch it to form an actual opinion.
What we'll do one night is we'll host a TGL night here in the studio.
Oh, dude, that's brilliant. We'll watch it on the biggest screen in Franklin, Tennessee.
100%. Yep.
That's a great idea. What are we doing next week, Tuesday night?
Apparently, we're watching TGL. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it from the Learning Center here tonight. Just a reminder that you can find us on YouTube if you search No Mulligans Podcast. And then if you go over to TikTok as well, we're really having a lot of fun over on TikTok. You can search No Mulligans Pod, and that's where we'll be right there.
That's if it stays alive long enough.
That's right. And then also, you can see over here on Scott's bag, we've got the No Mulligans head cover right there.
We will announce the winner when we do our grand opening.
Bingo. Exactly. So make sure you guys go over to S. Hassey Golf or FBPI Golf as well.
Or No Mulligans Pod.
Or No Mulligans Pod. Bang. And just get to see what we've got going on over there and what's going on in our the links in our bio there. So from Scott and Jack here in the Learning Center. Thanks, man. It was a fun one.
That was good.
Yeah.
Thanks for the surprise.
That's right. We'll be back here with another podcast next week with our boy Sam Street. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.